Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Your Number One Fan podcast. I'm your host, Kim Spencer, your number one fan. Episode topics will vary with the ultimate goal of providing the inspiration, encouragement, and tools for you to create your most authentic, happy life. I want this to be your weekly comfort podcast that also gives you a little kick in the butt to live your life to the fullest and not care what anybody says. Thank you for being here. Now let's get into the good stuff. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Your Number One Fan podcast. Today is a special day because I peer pressured my husband, Steve, to come on and chat with me. And you can just hear how I got him to come on. Go ahead. That is the sound of a high noon. And I also have my wine. Cheers. Okay. So as you all know, if you're a listener, you know that this podcast is about becoming your best self, being yourself, not caring what people think, living your best life and creating that life. And I owe a lot of my ability to do that to my husband. I think discussing kind of our story and then what we've learned, things that have come up over time, because Steve and I grew up very differently and have already done a lot of things through our relationship. So it'll just be a fun little discussion about our relationship when we met and dating and all the things that have gone on since then. But yeah, hi, Steve.
Hey.
We're in my office right now in our house, and it is a mess, but it is my little spot. So we are here going to just have a nice little chat with some beverages. So Steve and I are very different, right? I'd say we're different.
Yeah, yes and no.
Yeah. It's hard to say. Like when we first started dating and talking, it felt like we had a lot in common. Like you'd like do 20 questions or ask questions and you're like, oh, I have a lot in common with this person. But I don't know if there was like a certain time when we realized or just over time we realized that
after you start living together, probably.
Yeah.
That's probably the same thing with a lot of people.
Yeah.
They find out what they didn't realize that they couldn't stand
about
another person or something that they really enjoy or feel like they never thought that they needed.
Oh, okay.
Until,
Yeah, Steve and I like to say that we knew of each other and so we went to high school together and I think I said it first. I said, you were the Steve, like the Steve Spencer. And then he'd say, oh, you were the Kim Charleston. And I don't know if he's honest, but I mean that. That really is how I thought of you.
Yeah, I always knew of you in school.
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever saw you or never actually met you in high school. But.
Yeah. Which is so weird. We were just kind of talking about that. Like, this is a different subject, but how when I die, I want to ask for my stats. Like, I want to know how many times did I do XYZ. And one of the things I'd want to know is how many times was I within 10 feet of Steve, but didn't know him yet. So how many times was I that close to my future husband? That's just so cool to me to think about because we went to the same school for 4 years. Well, middle school too, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So middle school and high school. He was 1 year older. So there's quite a few years there. And I wonder, it's weird to think about. But yeah, so anyways, we never met in person, naturally. We met on Tinder.
Yeah.
Connected on Tinder.
Connected, yeah.
Yeah, which is just a true millennial meet, to meet cute of.
I feel like a lot of people meet that way nowadays, though.
Yeah. It's harder to meet other ways, especially when everybody else is meeting that way.
Yeah.
It just feels like.
And who wants to just bump into somebody, just meet somebody at a bar or something?
Yeah. I think that's still the dream for a lot of people though, who are our age and are in a relationship right now.
That's why people still go out.
Yeah.
With that hope.
Yeah.
Hope that they're the next star of the next rom-com or something,
But you can have those hopes. I think for us, maybe not, but I felt like that was a really big time in Tinder and Bumble. I feel like Bumble was relatively new at the time.
Yeah.
And I was on both. I think you were on both.
Mm-hmm.
But we matched on Tinder. And I just remember it so clearly because we had both come out of relatively recent
Yeah.
Like, we had come out of long-term relationships. And again, I didn't know, like, I'd never talked to Steve in person, so I don't know where I got the balls to say this, but I was like, fancy seeing you here. Like, what a weirdo. And because I was like, oh, he's dating, like, this girl. Like, I've seen them online, like, pictures and whatever. And he knew that I had a boyfriend. I think you said, me, you too, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
because I never expected to see Kim Charlton come across my page.
Right,
like that,
right.
You know?
Well, we both swiped right.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. No, I'm just kidding. But so then you kind of just talked. And at that point, I think we were both in a moment where we were like, okay, that we could start talking maybe. Like, I did not expect it. And I think that's one of the big things about just life. You can't plan for anything. There's nothing to expect.
You were ready to like move on from
I think
that last chapter.
Yeah. Maybe not necessarily with anybody. Yeah. And when we first started talking, you said you had like a huge year of traveling.
Yeah.
So you'd gone a lot of places. Yeah. Did you find yourself?
Yeah, 23. Yeah. Quarter life, not even a quarter life crisis.
Yeah, hopefully not. But I think, no, that's like something that I actually talked to Lydia about in a couple episodes back. Well, I don't know when this one will be posted, but I talked to Lydia, who is she's about to be a PhD in psychology. She's a candidate, but she's very smart. And we were talking about identities over the lifespan and how you're supposed to change, and quarter life crisis and half life crisis, like whatever. All of those things are legit because you always are changing. So I think thinking about it through that lens now, like you going on vacations and doing all of these things for that year, you probably were going through a little crisis. I think we all do. Like several times. I mean, we do. It's a fact. Talking to Lydia, she's like, does the research on that exact thing and says that you are meant to do that. You kind of go between 4 different compartments of like exploring, trying, like, I can't even remember all the words she said, but I think that was probably a little crisis, but
yeah, but
not
I've always like enjoyed traveling and stuff. Yeah. Like me and my buddy John, we always like to go to like an away game for like the Bills games, or if he's like working in a different city, if I can meet up with them and have a couple days, we can go out around the town. That's always a good time. But we just kind of like amped that up.
Yeah.
Like right after.
It's like an outlet.
Yeah. To like a little bit of a distraction.
Yeah.
But.
And at that point I had just been, so you were single for how long at the time?
Oh God.
December 2016 is when we first started like talking.
I can't even know. I'm really bad with dates.
Yeah, me too. A while. And I was about 6 months, almost to the day, I feel like.
Maybe like a year and a half, 2 years maybe? Something.
Yeah. So, I mean, he dabbled.
Well, don't we all?
Yeah, you dabbled.
Yeah.
But long-term relationship, serious relationship. So anyways, we were both in a part of our lives where I guess it just made sense to bring the conversation from the app to texting. Which in these days is a serious thing. I mean, a lot of people just stay on the app a lot of the time.
Do they? I don't know.
I think on Tinder especially, which I didn't know at the time that that's more of like a hookup app.
Yeah, I didn't really think of it either way.
Yeah. So I think going right to text was more like, I don't know, maybe some people do think the opposite, but in my opinion, I feel like that's a sign you want to talk to somebody more than just like keeping the conversation on the app. But I know you said you don't check it very much or something and whatever.
I didn't use it as like a hookup app.
Yeah, me either. A couple months later, we started dating. I mean, we could fast forward there. I know that you had one more trip to New York City. The thing about me, well, in this relationship specifically, is that I knew pretty immediately that I loved Steve, which is weird to say out loud on a podcast, but it's I think that thing that people say is like true. Like when you know, I don't know if there could be a situation where that happens to somebody multiple times. Like you just know you're in love or you know you're the one. But I feel like I knew you were the one. And I knew it very soon. Like, and I remember wanting to say it in February. And we had only had like 2 or 3 dates in person by then. I don't know why.
Well, it just felt natural.
Yeah.
Right? And then we dated for couple months, and ended up wanting you to move in.
Yeah.
You know? So
we started dating in March 2017.
And then like June.
And in June he asked me, shout out to Jenny if she's listening, but we were at a concert and Steve brought it up because he had a couple pops and just, let it go. And I was like, wait, what? But, of course I wanted to. So we were living together in September. And I mean, thinking back, we were so freaking young, but everybody says like moving in is a huge thing and you either like do good or you do not. And I remember feeling a little like confused by that. Like, not confused. I just felt that was a non-issue to me. I felt like we didn't have really any issues.
No.
Going forward, we definitely we're different. We're not similar in a lot of ways. But when we lived together, it was more like fun. It was like a sleepover every day with like your best friend. And I think maybe that also is we were just discovering each other as people. Like, so maybe that could go either way. It could go good or bad.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it was fun. And I think also everything has to align really well. Like when you move into with somebody, it has to be like intentional. You can't just like have to or something,
It's got to be the right time for both.
Yeah. And it just felt like it was. And I know his mom, who she's probably listening. Hi. She told this story on our wedding video. I don't think it made it into the final cut, but she talked about how Steve was like, okay, I'm going to move out. And I asked him to move in. And she didn't know me very well at the time. Like, again, we hadn't been dating for not even 9 months. When you were looking for houses and you decided, it was like 6 or 7 months that we'd been officially together. And she was like, are you sure? Like she was very honest about it, but that's the type of mom she is. She's very like upfront and honest and wants the best for her son. And I obviously appreciate that and respect that. But it's so funny to think back to because now I made her the most adorable grandson.
Yeah.
If only she would have known. You were ready to get a house and you were ready to move out. And instead of moving out alone, you moved right in with me.
Yeah.
And I never lived alone either. So that's just another weird part.
So it was a learning curve for both of us.
Yeah.
Moving out on our own.
Yeah. We both grew up very different too, which I don't know. I think if you like looked at our relationship from an outside perspective and just saw all these bullet points, like the differences in how we grew up, the differences in our like opinions of things, our ideas of money, or like just different like religion and whatever, you might be like, I don't know if they would be good together. Like, I don't know if they would mesh. But that's the thing about it. And I think one thing that could keep coming back as we talk is like, as corny as it sounds, like love isn't enough. Like you have to be in it for the person and you have to not depend on just like, okay, well, we love each other, we're going to end up together. Like it's more,
Yeah, but even through all that stuff, like through our differences and even like our like bickering, because we don't really fight.
No.
Everything's just like a little bicker.
Spat.
It just, I don't know the right way of putting it, but it still feels good.
Yeah.
You know, like you never once thought like, oh, she said this, so I'm out, or she doesn't agree with me on this.
And I think, that's a good point. So it's not, love isn't enough, but I think love definitely helps, and it's what you need to piece it all together. Even though it's not the only thing, I think it's the glue.
It sounds so corny, but like loving you is easy.
Yeah.
And that like you don't, while every day should be, everybody has to put everybody involved has to put the best foot forward for the relationship to be strong and to be healthy and to keep going forward. But it just, waking up every day, it just feels like it's easy to, like you said, we're best friends first that love each other. I don't know. It's nice.
Yeah. So moving in, let's go over like 2 things. What do you recommend that a couple talks about before moving in? This is I'm just springing this on him, so I have to think about it too.
2 things that you should
discuss
prior to like